Hello, welcome to the Yaoi Shelf,
Hello.
in which one of your hosts decided that they were going to dress up and not tell the other host. So one host looks like trash and the other one looks great.
Listen, it was a spur of the moment because my
In
hair was
which
terrible. And
in
you
which
look
one host looks great and the other host looks like a haggard swamp witch.
I like haggard swamp witches.
Well, good,
And
because that's what you're doing.
I think you look nice.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I am not at all stressed out about the fact that I'm supposed to be out of the country in 14 days. Everything's fine.
I'm stressed. I'm stressed for you. I'm like
I'm not at all stressed at the fact that I'm supposed to be out of the country in 14 days. Everything's going great over here.
but you're excited too, right? I hope.
Yes.
Yes. I'm not sure I'm convinced. Like somehow
It's one of those things that like it still doesn't quite feel real.
I get
My
it.
brain,
I get that.
my brain is like, it's not really, no, you're good. You're good. It's not happening. Just don't worry about it. And then it's like, bruh, it's happening. Like you need to get shit done.
But
Anyways,
at least you started packing, which I think is like impressive.
it's mostly so I don't end up having to do like all of the laundry the night before.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'm just gonna be like, where the fuck are all my clothes?
I admire that. Like
I'm doing my best over here.
you're
I'm
doing great.
Welcome to the Yaoi Shelf.
Welcome.
Grab a seat and relax. It is October, which means we unfortunately are contractually obligated to talk about horror and spooky BL.
What do you mean, unfortunately?
I mean, okay. So I have conflicting feelings about horror in general because if you're a listener only, this might be shocking to you. I'm African American. So I don't like scary things, and I have very, very suspension of disbelief is very, very like high for me.
So you're saying that I actually only love horror because I'm white and I would dead ass be the stupid person reading the incantation.
And I'm the person who's like in the car, like waiting for this to be over.
I promise I wouldn't though. Like I usually go, because the black character is always the voice of reason who's like,
Yes.
don't. And I'm like, listen, we watched, and I say this so no one else has to. We watched the new Jeepers Creepers,
Mm-hmm.
and it was so bad. And I am so sad. Like, how hard is it to make a sequel that is an actual sequel to the second one? I just want to see the creeper wake up on Farmer Taggart's wall. Like, that's all I want. Anyway, the main guy was a black guy. And there you go, suspension of disbelief, because this guy was so dumb. He was just walking straight into this. And I'm like, you're supposed to be clever.
Yeah. Like I remember I went to go see, it was Sinister 2 with a friend.
Oh, yeah.
And I had never seen the first Sinister. And I was like, do I need to know the first movie to see the second movie? My friend's like, no, you're good. Red flag on the field. If it's a sequel and I don't need to know what happened in the first movie, that's a bad movie. I'm sorry. That's a bad movie. I don't care what you think. If it is a sequel and I do not need to know anything from movie 1, red flag on the field. And it was mostly just like jump scare malfeasance of like, oh, the wind. It's some loud wind. And there was one scene where like the house is possessed. The house is possessed by something. And it's like affecting the kids. It's a mom and her kids. And one of the boys, he's possessed because of course he is. The children are always possessed. And the kid, was arguing with his mom, and he looks at his mom and he goes, fuck you. And I'm like, oh. And he goes, yeah, fuck you, you cunt. And I was like, oh, so the movie's over because he's dead, right? The movie's done, because this was the scariest part of the movie for me, was this child calling his mom a cunt. That was the scariest part of the movie. Because I couldn't imagine that, because I'd be dead.
Yeah.
I couldn't say that to my mom and still be living. So I have a very, very like love-hate relationship with horror. I do like spooky themes. I do like paranormal themes. But like what most people consider to be horror, I'm very like hot and cold on. I love it in theory, but most of the time in practice, it's kind of just like, no, why are we doing any of this? Why is anyone here? What's going on? It's like, oh, we're gonna explore the haunted mine shaft. No, we're not. No, we're not. We're going home. We're calling the cops. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So we're here to talk about some spooky shit. Again, pay no attention to the fact that I am leaving the country in 14 days. I'm doing great over here.
I'm rooting for you.
Thank you so much. So it's October. We have to talk about this. I want to keep this very, very tightly in the BL and LGBT plus media sphere. If you're looking at our outline, if anyone else could look at our outline, it looks like one of us had a stroke in between writing. It's just word salad at the stage.
I love the word salad. It's my favorite salad.
But let's start with firstly, why do we spook the gay? You know, BL is more of an attribute than it is an individual genre. So you can have a historical BL. You can have a World War II BL. There's a lot of those. You can have a Yakuza BL. There's a lot of those.
We love those.
There's a lot of those. So just in that, you could have some spooky horror ones. Why would you spook the gays, Carola?
I mean, first of all, horror and, things that relate to horror have always been queer. I've been geeking out this whole week, like listening to these video essays and reading like articles and stuff on this. And the horror genre dates back to Gothic literature. And hello, I studied literature. Spoiler.
Also studied literature?
Yes. And there's so much not very subtle subtext written by queer poets and authors back in the day. And, blame Oscar Wilde for all of it. Like, yeah, you have Dorian Gray, but like Dracula, because Bram Stoker was apparently a friend of Wilde's, and, and even Frankenstein, right? Because he is trying to create the perfect creature, and he only goes for male body parts.
Yeah, there's a lot of homoeroticism in Frankenstein.
Much homoeroticism. And of course, vampires have always been gay, like Carmilla, the lesbian queen.
Love Carmilla. I was about to say, if you don't mention Carmilla, we're gonna exchange words.
Oh, we're fine. No, but yeah, and this ties into how there is this homophobia in the ancient. I mean, we're looking at Gothic literature right now, and how there's nothing scarier than those seductive, sexy men and their seduction techniques and their pointy teeth and so a lot of the time creatures like vampires have been like these overt euphemisms for homosexuals. And then you look at folklore. And you look at folklore, and there's so much like sexual content happening.
Well, and we also have to acknowledge that vampires are also a very, very pointed reference, usually to xenophobia as well, especially post Bram Stoker. Stoker, not Stroker.
Yeah,
my brain is tired.
I mean, I like the sound of that, Bram Stoker.
Bram Stoker, his OnlyFans name. His OnlyFans name.
Oh my god, I deadass would subscribe. Yes.
So there's this very, very thinly veiled xenophobia as well to a lot of vampires. So there is this like homoeroticism, but there's also this like thinly veiled like we have to keep these foreign men away from our lily white women.
And the whole the reverse colonialism of we colonized the world, but now these strangers are coming to our shores to do the same thing. And it's like,
right. There's a lot of like not so subtle racism with vampires as well, where it's like, oh, it's these others from Romania. So there's usually like some Romani slander in there.
Yeah.
That's, varying levels of hidden. Varying levels of hidden depending on who you're reading.
Depending. Yes.
There's some very overt where it's like, y'all are just racist. And
it's like, you didn't even try to, like, this is, okay.
Yeah. And I also want to mention, and this is something that Carola put in, and it's very, very important. Taboo stories have been important to queer media since always. We're going to talk about the problematic issue because that leads into some cool stuff coming up soon.
And
But
we do love talking about problematic stuff, don't we?
we really do.
We really do.
I wonder why.
Like throwback to last year's October episode.
Shocking. But like, always been a part of queer media. Look to the episode with Dr. Thomas, where this stuff is explained much more eloquently by a literal genius, and that a lot of this stuff is used as a way to, sort of work through really just like some either like dark desires, or honestly, at least like, for some of us who are assigned female at birth or are living as women, frankly, some angst. Frankly, just some angst. There's a reason why a lot of women and those assigned female at birth tend to kind of be monster fuckers a little bit.
I guess.
Angst. I mean, it's true. Like it's fascinating to me because this isn't explicitly horror, but I remember watching Beastars for the first time and looking at Lugosi, and he like shockingly reminded me of my dad. And like not like in a weird way, but like in the way of like, this is someone who is large and that society would normally find scary, but really is like this gentle creature. And my dad was a large Black man, the thing that American society is most afraid of. And my dad wasn't violent. He wasn't a thug. He wasn't any of those things. He loved playing tennis, for Christ's sake. So I weirdly felt a lot of like that coding and representation in this wolf, which you see a lot with female writers assigned female at birth, and even POC creators. There's a lot of bonding with monsters and a lot of bonding with these other creatures, because they do face all of the same racism and sexism that we would face in real life. There's a great Lindsay Ellis episode about that, where she talks about especially the person of color implication when it comes to relating to and wanting to sleep with monsters. And she calls in an expert. She calls in a Black person. It's not just her, white person explaining Black feelings. She does the right thing, where, she phones a friend and she calls in a Black person. But it frankly helps us, go through a lot of societal and sexual angst that we normally have the avenues to work through. And BL especially does that for a lot of queer people and for its readers of color, because BL is not read only by white people. Shocking.
Yeah, shocking.
Shocking.
Who knew, right?
True. I do want to put in one note. Cultural appropriation.
Okay, go wild.
So I see things on the internet. There are certain fascinations with creatures and monsters from other locales and other locations that may not be yours. And while I'm quick to say that mythology is fair game, I'm also quick to say that there's a lot of monsters that mean specific things for specific cultures.
Yeah.
So if you are not a part of that representative culture, I would proceed with caution. Especially here in the US, there's a lot of my culture is not your costume around things like Day of the Dead, around Native American outfits, around wearing like Party City kimonos and stuff like that, because the line between appreciation and appropriation is not actually that thin. It's not. I'm sorry that that's the neoliberal lie that has been told to Americans, that the line between appreciation and appropriation is thin. If you're buying it from Party City, no, it's not. If you've walked into a Walmart and left with a kimono, that line is not thin. That's a thick ass line.
Just trying to picture a Walmart kimono.
It's not great. It's not great.
They're
bet. Not great. Yeah, they're not great. So, I want to put that in there because we'd be remiss not to bring it up, because, I know some of you guys are writers and, you look at this stuff, it's like, oh my God, this is super, super cool. I want to do this. And it's like, have you considered any of the cultural implications into wanting to do this? Also, if you're on TikTok, stop sexualizing the Wendigo.
What is happening? And again, like, can I just point out that my perception of the Wendigo,
Yes.
like the first time I saw a Wendigo was this
Yes.
one episode of Charmed back in the
Yes.
90s when they
Yes.
turn into Wendigos. And then I find out as an adult that that's not what a Wendigo is supposed to look like at
No.
all. They're like, they were like the ugliest werewolves. And they terrified me in that
Yes.
episode. I was like, I don't know how old I was, but they were terrifying. And I always
Yes.
thought that that was a Wendigo, but apparently
It's
not.
No. No. Wendigos, they usually have antlers. They're very,
Yeah.
very gaunt. They have no lips or gums because they're usually chewing them off because that sates their hunger. Basically, they look like their skin is too big for their bones. They're very monstrous creatures.
Yeah.
Stop trying to fuck them.
But you know, monster fucking is such a...
That's too far. I'm sorry.
It's such a big hobby these days.
I draw the line at trying to get the window seat.
I mean, I've said this before. I've come to a point in my career as a rotten person, as a foodin, where I feel so incredibly vanilla because I'm like surrounded by monster fuckers and people who are like, you know, thirsting for these creatures, and I'm just like, I just want to see twinks get it on with other twinks. Why am I so alone in this perception? Everyone's like,
you're not alone.
The Bara titty daddies and the monster fuckers, and I'm like in the middle.
You're not alone. You're not alone. So let's move on to the next point. Is spooking the gay good? Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
You can get one thing I love about horror in general. I know I've said nothing but negative things, but they tend to be very diverse stories. They do tend to have a lot of diversity in cast and representation and voice and perspective.
Yeah.
So you do get these like cool ensembles in horror stories sometimes that can be really interesting to work with.
Yeah. And you know, you have a lot of the time, especially with whether you're dealing with, you know, someone who is fighting against a force of evil or whatever, you know, there's that internal struggle and the identity and coming to terms with your own destiny and, you know, how you want to express yourself and all of these things that typically is sort of like it's latent in a lot of like mainstream horror where we do pick up the queer, like, okay, not so subtle, but like Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, the most gay film that was ever made. It's wonderful. But also like if you apply that to BL in particular, you have a lot of these characters, you know, you have vampires, you have incubi, you have these monster creatures and this hunger, this sexual hunger, and it's the same thing, you know, where there's that battle for control and the identity, and so, you know, it transfers really well. So, you know, it can be really you can read a lot into it as like queer subtext and identity, but it can also be like really sexy.
The demons heard you and they took down part
again. I need to stop summoning demons during our.
Just kidding. It's faulty adhesive. Okay. Everything's fine.
Okay. I'm not sure I'm convinced. Listen, can you not be haunted when you're about to travel?
I'm trying really hard not to. I did find there's this abandoned shrine and castle right outside of Tokyo that I'm like, hey, can we go to this? My friends, a black guy and a Hispanic guy, are like, no.
Good.
No, you fucking moron.
Listen,
you can't go.
The last time I was in Tokyo, we were walking through Akihabara to get to this. There's like this shrine on top of a hill, like a very small shrine, because there was some festival, and we were going there, and we passed by this like hole in the wall, very abandoned looking temple thing. Like it was just like it was open. It was terrifying. I was like, this is a horror film. Let's just.
Isn't that what happened in Sarazanmai? We're not doing that.
Yeah, and it wasn't even near Kappa Plaza. So I was like, you know what? Are you gonna go to Kappa Plaza?
I mean, I feel like I have to.
I feel like you have to, because I didn't get to go last time I went because there
I
was
mean,
no
especially
time.
considering what you're making me dress up as for Halloween. I feel like I have to.
I'm not making you do
You
anything.
forced me.
What?
You held
This
hostage.
I'm pretty sure this was your idea like a
It was
year
not
ago.
my
Do
idea.
not pin this on me. I know
I
you're happy
know.
about it. I
Don't
am
tell me what my feelings are.
I
I
can
know you're
I
happy
can
about it.
feel them
Don't
from here.
tell me what my feelings are.
I know you love it. You're super excited. Don't at me. But yeah, like with Sama is a good example because you have the folklore aspect because the kappa, like there's a lot of queer uh creatures in Japanese folklore and in the yokai world as well.
There's a lot of queer in Japanese folklore.
Yes.
Sentences over.
I mean, that's why they invented BL. There was so much to build
There's so
on.
much subtext.
It's like,
and then Christians came over and said, "Hey, all that homosexuality is bad. You
why
guys
do
should
they?
stop that."
Why do I have to ruin everything?
I
Like
wasn't-
Japan had a good thing going,
They had a great thing going.
Damn.
There was a TikTok that I was watching that was like, "Hello, colonizers and people that have stolen the land. Thank you." And it's like, "Hi, I'm African American. I didn't ask to be here. Do you not yell at me?" And the creators like, yeah, you're good. Like, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think that applies to you.
Because there's so much of me that understands like native indignation at everything. And like, please, yes, yell at the white people that are here. They deserve it. But I feel like sometimes they cast that net too wide. And it's like, hi, I didn't ask to be here. Hello, can I get excused from this chewing out? I didn't ask for this. This is now just where I live.
Against your will.
Every day I exist is against my will.
Is
spooking the gay bad?
I feel like I'm obliged to say that it can be.
Yeah, I can definitely see some aspects of horror themes being not so great. You get a lot of like barrier gay tropes even within BL. You get like the most overt or most out person sometimes is the first to die or is the one that has all the horrible things happening to them. It's also sometimes seen like as a punishment for those that are closeted, which is very, very funny in a nation like Japan that still has very, very strict sodomy laws and won't allow people to get married.
And there's
there's a lot of problematic stuff that does happen to queer people in horror stories. And there's also a lot of it just because of the nature of coding and the nature of how people write. So there's still a lot of like cross-dressing serial killers.
Yep.
There's still a lot of that. There's still a lot of, rape and sexual violence being used against people. And especially if it happens to someone who is male, that is often still, even in horror, played as a joke, where you get that first initial incident of, oh, there was this, monster that attacked me. It's still played as a joke in a lot of horror stories. I can see why there are people that are concerned about the problematic elements of horror and scary stories. And I'll also say that there are some, to put it lightly, tone problems occasionally, where sometimes, especially BL of a certain generation, likes to have its cake and eat it too when it comes to spooky stuff. And it'll throw in spooky things, but not really think about any of the implications behind what that means. Looking real hard at Eerie Query as much as I love it.
I haven't read it in so long, but yeah.
Looking real hard at Eerie Query, where you have a ghost who committed suicide because he and his gay lover were promised to die together, and the lover didn't die. So that's how you get one gay ghost. And like, that's played as a joke. That's played as comedy, that he's stuck in this ghost form, because he was gay. But that's awful. Like, that's not.
Yeah, it's horrible. And it's like, because it's one of those dual-edged swords where it's like, again, because BL is rooted in shoujo and in this whole feminist movement, and women's stories have typically been tragic because that's what we know, and that transfers to a lot of BL and to a lot of spooky BL and horror in general, and gothic stories, because you have the doomed lovers, the tragic endings, and kind of the romanticizing thereof. And then also that there's that whole, I mean, you get where it's coming from, because it is the reality of our narratives, but then it taps into that whole bury your gay trope, and you have these, all of those things that you just mentioned, and you have like, wait, let me look at my notes. And then of course you have the psychological horror, which is again fiction and reality and that whole discussion, but also there is so much of these darker, spookier type stories that have like kidnappings and sexual assaults as a main trope, but then that sort of comes out as, but they fall in love and then it's fine, and it's like, no, it isn't. He was electrocuting him 5 minutes ago, like,
right. And
Vegas.
And we would be again remiss to not bring up the fact that Sojo still has a lot of this problem. Hentai has a lot of this problem. Like other media sources have this problem as well. The issue is that when you bring it into the queer space, and I'll say this as, being African American and being queer, it hits a little too close to home sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that like violence against women is okay. Fiction is fiction, obviously, but I'm not saying that it's different. Like it hits home different when it's a group that is like double, triple marginalized.
Yeah.
Like there is a huge difference between, a white woman getting murdered in Scream versus, the one black gay character in a story getting punished basically for existing. Those two things hit different. So it's not to say that, that stuff is all right when it happens in other fictional stories. Not at all. It's just different. And then you have to look about who the audience is. And, while we can say that pop culture is consumed by everyone, a lot of these queer stories are read by queer people. And it is different when you're seeing your own kind die versus a projected avatar of what you are supposed to be. So I understand, I'm using air quotes if you're listener only, some of the critiques that people may have against some horror theming in queer storytelling. Do I think that is an excuse not to do it? No. I think, again, it's that proceed with caution thing. I would always examine the writers, and then if you are the writer, your intentionality in doing this. I'm big about intentionality, if you haven't noticed.
Is that the worst thing you can be big on?
I know. There's a lot of things that I could be like very, very pro. And it's like, I just care about intentionality, guys. I just really care about intentionality. Is Spook the Gay fetishizing gay men?
I saw you add those two points to the to the outline. I was like, every time, what do you even want me to say? Like,
so again, I hate giving it a maybe, but there is a possible argument that some writers may enjoy too much at harm being done to queer men. I can't ascribe that to anyone, and there is no particular author that comes to mind that's doing it for the lulz. But I can understand if someone were to make a compelling argument that there may be some cases where this feels a little targeted, where this feels a little, you didn't have to kill that one character, or this one story did not have to turn out the way that it did. So is it fetishization in the Marxist term? No. Would I question the intentionality of some creators who are writing these stories? Yeah. Just like I would with anything.
Exactly. And again, it goes back to that critical reading and critical consumption. And again, that there is so much to choose from, whether that be BL or these types of things in general, because maybe you don't like the dark and more grotesque stories, like killing, stalking, for instance, being very, very apt example. But that's why you also have a lot of these types of stories that deal with these monster characters like vampires and werewolves and ghosts of all of this that are more on the silly and sexual side. And there's so much flat out porn in the BL sphere with spooky themes.
Yeah, like a lot of it, it was almost a little bit difficult doing this episode because even the ones that are really, really scary, like, usually are quite funny. Like, killing, stalking has moments it's very, very funny. It shouldn't be. That's a problem.
But it's also fucking terrifying. Like,
it is.
I had such a hard time accepting killing, stalking as a BL because it's a wonderful, like, maybe not wonderful, it's a really good psychological horror story.
Yes.
I am very hesitant to refer to it as BL.
Yeah.
Because the love aspect is like severely lacking, but the author refers to it as BL, so I can't really argue. And again, you can have horror BL, I guess, but it's like the worst relationship in the world.
Yeah. Yeah,
but
that's true.
I don't ship it, but it's a good story. Like, also, excuse me, but why are so many evil people in Korean media named Sang-woo? I have a lot of questions.
Ask
like,
Korea.
I've just gotten to the point where like a character appears and his name is Sang-woo, and I'm like, oh no.
Like, oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
This is bad.
I feel
But
like
yeah.
I feel like BL had that with the name Yuki for the longest time. Like, if the character's name was Yuki, it's like, yes, be careful of that one.
Yeah.
He might not be a murderer, but he's going to be the one that fucks everything up. He's going to be the one.
Yeah, and that's the Yuki, like in Snow, the Yuki with the
Yes.
one U, not the one with the W. It's always the
W is usually a soft, pathetic uke.
Yeah, I have one. Hi. It means courage, but like pillow princesses, all of them.
Yeah, the W is a soft uke. The single U is here to ruin the series.
He's gonna fuck you up, like in every way possible. He's out there, dude.
Every single character named Yuki, it's like, oh, you're gonna ruin the series, aren't you? You're just gonna grind this thing to a halt and make everyone worse for it.
And then it's like you have some serious issues and you're gonna make it everyone else's problem.
Yes,
like
your inability to go to therapy is gonna ruin it for just everyone. The dog down the street, the woman who owns the convenience store, just everyone's lives are going to be more difficult.
Like, forget about zodiacs and like rising signs and things. Like, it's the name. It's your name Yuki. Oh, you're bad news.
Oh, you're bad news every fucking time.
High level of what the hell am I trying to say? High probability that I will love this absolute mess of a human being. Absolutely. This dumpster fire of a man. Yes.
In a 2000s BL, and there's a random American. Keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on him. We don't always know what he's going to do. He's a wild card. But if someone suddenly has the name like Derek or something, keep an eye on that guy. If suddenly it's like, oh, and this is Tom, you go, you hunt him down. Because he's going to do something. We don't know what it is yet. But if it's like 2004 and it's a Japanese school and suddenly there's an American, you stay with him. You stay with him. He's going to do something.
Unless his name is Claude, because then he's going to shoot you.
Chokes and dies.
I mean, I know it's our Halloween episode, but could you not die?
Yeah, I can't die yet. I have to go
Please.
on this trip.
You have to
Uh,
return safely.
I have to go on this trip, return, and then do a couple more episodes, and then I can die.
Yeah.
I have to finish this season at least.
I haven't even shipped out your birthday present yet, so please. I was gonna do it, and then I was like, if I do
Girl,
it
it's
now,
October.
what if it yes, but there were issues, okay? And then I was like, I was gonna send it, and then I was like, what if I send it and then you leave and then it doesn't get delivered? And then I got conflicted. So now it's just sitting here.
Girl, it's October.
What do I do though? Should I just hold on to it for Christmas?
Yeah, just compound it with Christmas, I guess. Shit.
Oh my god, I'm such a disaster. Oh, I'm
Is
sorry.
it's okay. Is Spook the Gay problematic?
Yes and no. I mean, we've covered a lot of ground already. Like, it can be, you have to look at intention, have to think critically while consuming. Why, why was it written like this? How are you interpreting it? Why are you interpreting it like this? And are you thinking critical about your consumption?
Yeah, and honestly, I would even look at, things that you might not look at before. Like, I'm really on a tear of like cultural appropriation because it's that time of year where people of color are particularly sensitive about it. One thing that always surprises me is when white authors decide that like, oh, this character is randomly going to be black. That's always like, it's not a red flag, but it's a flag.
Yeah,
like,
but
why?
it's like that thing I saw yesterday on Twitter, which was like, if you're a white author and you're only mentioning the skin tone of not white characters,
That's a
then
problem.
yeah, because you're automatically making white the default.
Yeah, you're exoticizing.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't have a white character described like, oh, and they're alabaster eggshell, pearl white skin. Like we wouldn't say that about a white character.
No.
And if we did, we'd be like, what the fuck? Their skin a soft off eggshell. Like we wouldn't say that about like a white character. So if you're using like 13 words to describe brown and all of them are different, because that's my other favorite is when it's like, oh, the burnt sienna mocha chocolate skin.
Yeah,
it's
the
like
chocolate skin.
None of
Nubian
those are the
queen.
same brown.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, firstly, I'm not a food. Please stop using food terms to describe people of color. Olive, chocolate, mocha, caramel. Stop using food to describe us. We're not food.
Have you seen that picture that's like, someone wrote a character being described as having the skin color of freshly squeezed olives, and then there's a picture and it's like bright green?
Yeah, it's like
I love that.
There was a TikTok that I was watching, and it was two black guys, and they said, "Oh, whenever I grew up hearing, oh, women love tall, dark, and handsome," and it's like they don't mean black, they mean Ben Affleck.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the quotes was, "No, I want tall, dark, and handsome. You're black." And I remember just like cracking up. It's just like that's that's not the same. But so there are some problematic elements to it. Absolutely. Is it enough to terrorize creators? No. Is it enough to dox creators? No. Is it enough to go after people who are reading this stuff? No. But like with any media, of course, there are some problematic elements to it. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I do find in horror and spooky. I mostly do the paranormal stuff because, again, like horror doesn't really do it for me. Especially, I don't know, like weirdly in manga, because it's just like suspension disbelief is a little bit like over there.
Yeah, but it's like if I want to read like horror manga, I'm gonna read the manga adaptations of The Ring or like Junji Ito. I don't want to read BL and be frightened. So
yeah, and that's a personal thing. I do like it if a BL can scare me, where I like something happens, like, oh no, like I do like that every once in a while. Yeah. But like, am I seeking it out actively? Not typically, I'll say. But I do like it every once in a while when it's here. He's like, oh no,
yeah,
no!
Like when you get really invested and you get like genuine reactions, like that's always fun, and that's just it bears witness to great writing. I love that. True. But it's but it's like if I want to watch, because obviously it's Halloween season, so we're
Mhm.
watching all the horror films we can get our hands on, and it's like,
Mhm.
I like being frightened, but it
I respect
takes
that.
but it takes a lot. But like, I have different expectations. I sit down with a horror film, it's because I want my skin to crawl. I sit down with a BL manga, I want to feel that punch to the gut that is, oh my god, this is, this is so good. I don't want to
Right.
be I don't go into it with the intention of being frightened. I don't even
Yeah.
go into it with the intention of getting my heart broken, but that keeps happening. I've been thinking a lot about banana fish lately because, Ash is afraid of
When are you
pumpkins.
not thinking about banana fish?
It's been a while because
I don't think that's true.
I've been so deep in Miritama brain rot that I haven't thought that much about banana fish. But then I started bringing out the pumpkin decorations, and now I'm so sad. I'm so sad. But yeah, I typically I seek out like my brand of dark BL that isn't, psychological horror is
Mhm.
vampires. I love vampires because they're sexy and they bite each other.
You're jumping the
And
gun.
okay, I'm sorry, but I'm just saying I'm not in it to be
You're
frightened.
skipping ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We're not at that part of the outline yet. Okay, now we're at the part of the outline.
What
are some flavors?
What is this gatekeeping of the outline you're doing? What the hell?
Listen, my former co-host disrespected my outline regularly. This outline is my child.
I am
Do
trying my
best.
best. I mean,
what
at
are-
least I went in and filled things into
You
the
add
outline.
things. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You contribute. That helps a lot.
Thank you. Occasionally I do, yeah.
Okay, what are some flavors of gay spooky? Carola was talking about vampires. You may resume.
I love vampires.
Okay. Is it the biting? Is it the immortality? Is it
they're not I don't think it's the immortality, because immortality is like one of the least sexy things I can think of because of the whole, the world is fucking burning. Who wants to live forever? Like, that sounds horrible.
Immortality for me, this is technically boys love, and that it is a queer story written by a Western creator. Letters for Lucardo has a vampire who is honestly just me, like down to being a black man, like is just me. There's a scene where he gets mad at his vampire dad and he says, in short, father, fuck you, let me eat my cake. And it's like, that's just me. But Letters for Lucardo has the vampire problem of like Lucardo's lover is a significantly older in appearance white man. And I had a really hard time reading Letters for Lucardo because you have this like, perpetual twink and then like a grandpa. And I didn't like that.
Yeah, I get that.
Like I get it, and I think that's a cool perspective to handle it, because that's one of the issues with the immortality thing. I get it, but like for whatever reason, I did not like seeing Grandpa get dicked down by a vampire. That was not something
fair.
that I liked.
Fair. Yeah.
It's a great story. Love Letters for Lucardo, but like, yeah, I didn't have a great time with the sex. It was like, that is a flabby older man. Cool.
Yeah, and that's, a personal preference thing. And, I'm with you.
No disrespect. If that's your cup of tea, it is not mine.
And it's like, and again, like you say, like the story can be good and the romance can be good, even if you don't find it, sexy in a way. Because someone out there definitely does. And
yes, it's a very, very popular story. Someone out there does find this very sexy. It's just not me.
Yeah. I just think, like, for me, the appeal, there is a lot of that intimacy, like, and the whole, like, there is the eroticism of it to begin with, this hot person, like man, woman, whatever, creeping up on you in bed and like biting you, like that in itself is like,
they're not allowed to enter unless they're invited.
Yes, yes.
So
they have to be invited. So you want
they're already in the house.
And then but also, it's the whole like, I think again, like the gothic aesthetic that they tend to have does so much for me because it, and a lot of it is interchangeable with visual K fashion. All the visual K artists have this vampire thing going. There's
I
this
was about to say, I feel like there's a connecting thread here that
yeah.
you're not disclosing fast enough.
Not to mention G's extremely homoerotic film Moonchild, which is
I was about
gay
to say there's
story.
some things here that you aren't disclosing fast enough.
Yeah, but I mean, there are so many, like, just the visual aesthetics for me, and then you have all of these like hot men in sexy outfits being sexy and biting each other. It's like, I love vampires purely for selfish aesthetic reasons.
Vampires, and I love that vampires don't always have to be taken as seriously.
Mm.
Like, you can actually have a lot of fun with vampire characters. You should have a lot of fun with vampire characters, because in a lot of ways, if any, like nowadays, their limitations are just quite funny.
Yeah, and again, like, I want so badly to see like be it a novel or a series or whatever of that Tumblr thread with the Italian vampires, like what they can't eat garlic, they can't cross themselves. Like, please, someone give this to me. It sounds like the best thing ever, and I just want to read it.
And like,
because it sounds hilarious.
I've started enjoying a little bit more like modern vampire fiction, like contemporary modern, and it's like, oh my god, the mirror rule is thrown out because mirrors are no longer backed by silver.
Yeah.
Which means that vampires can see themselves now. That's amazing. They haven't been able to do that for a few hundred years.
Can you imagine, though? And then you're like this horribly sexy creature that you can suddenly admire yourself in the mirror. You're just like...
It's called
Have you been watching... Did you start... Yeah. Did you start watching the series?
Yes. It's like what you are describing is Lestat.
I haven't seen it yet.
A vampire who can look in a mirror and go,
I wasn't going to say Lestat, but
just describe Lestat.
I need to get on this series. Like, I'm a little apprehensive, but I heard that it was really gay, so I'm just like,
it's very gay. You know what? I will say, I'm sure that there's someone who will love to clip this out of context and make it sound racist. I was a little shocked that they made one of the characters black. That was a little surprising to me. But they made it work, and it's good, and it's funny, and it's all the things that Anne Rice should be remembered for, as well as insisting that her characters weren't gay and having fan fiction taken down. She should also be remembered for that. She should be remembered that to the day she died, she insisted that none of these characters were gay, and that we're all just reading too much into it.
But did she really, though? Because I feel like she acknowledged it. And
hated it.
I don't know a lot about Anne Rice. Like, I only know about the lawsuits, really. But I thought I heard something.
To the day she died, thought that fangirls took it too far, thought that fangirls ruined the work, that we were just reading homoeroticism into her obviously gay vampire stories. Oh, and she got a bunch of fan fiction taken down because of copyright infringement.
I don't think that straight vampires exist.
I don't think straight vampires exist either. I think they're all at least bi. All of them, at least.
I mean, if you're going to be immortal, then why don't you just... I don't know, go for it.
I don't know where that sentence is going. Do you want to go into that sentence a little more? Like, if you're going to be immortal, go fuck another man, I guess.
No, I mean, like, why don't you shop around, Like, people are hot. I don't know.
Shop around. Do you have any recommendations of vampire BL that you would like to give the audience? That isn't just Fangs.
That isn't. I actually haven't read Fangs because, it's still ongoing. So I'm saving it.
I like it. It's not amazing to me, but I like it. I do recommend. I do give it a recommend.
I have a couple of one shots sitting around. I have something, I think it's called Bloody Kiss Tonight, which I think is like an anthology, and then Necrate-holic, which I hunted down secondhand after wanting it for so many years because the cover is so sexy. But also, I want to go ahead and plug my author colleague Carla Nicole, because she's a novelist and she has a trilogy called Lore and Lust, and it's so good. It is so good. So if you're into the written word, I absolutely recommend it.
Yeah, and then Letters for Lucardo, graphic novel. Also really, really good. If you do go Letters through the Cardo, just be prepared that you're gonna have a grandpa get digged down by a vampire. That's not your thing. Uh, just a warning.
I'm gonna go read it.
It's good.
I'm pretty sure I have read it at some point in my life, but it feels like I have to go back and recheck.
All right, werewolves. If there is not a greater gay trans metaphor than being a werewolf, that you in your day-to-day life, you're repressed. There's this something inside you that's clawing away. You don't know what it is, but you're different. And then suddenly, in the light of the sparkling moon, you can release that thing inside of you. It's monstrous, it's hungry, it's beautiful and powerful, and you feel like yourself. Two halves become whole, and you can run, frolic free, actualized. It is one of the best trans gay metaphors out there. It's also not a subtle trans gay metaphor now that I've said it, because now that I've said it, everyone's going to be like, ah, yes, those gay werewolves.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm just sitting here this is, you're making some good points.
It's an excellent, trans gay metaphor, being a werewolf. And it's amazing. It's fantastic. Coyote is a pretty good werewolf story, if you're okay with that. The allure of werewolves, I don't think that there is a Venn diagram between Omegaverse hoes and werewolf hoes. That is just a circle.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like there's a connection there. Because I feel like I haven't read a lot of, at least not recent, werewolf BL, and I think it is because a lot of it seems to be Omegaverse, and I'm just not into it.
So a lot of it isn't, but the two fan bases are a circle.
Yeah.
It is possible. It is possible to have a werewolf story that is not Omegaverse, because realistically, a werewolf should be more monstrous than just hybrids or wolves. But occasionally they do get a little Omegaversy. It just depends on who's writing or reading it. I have very, very complicated feelings about Omegaverse, because I'm the first person to say, I don't really read a lot of Omegaverse, and then I look through my AO3 history, and it's that's a lot of Omegaverse. I'm the first person to be I don't read a lot of Omegaverse, and then I go through my history. It's that's a lot of Omegaverse. Okay, I guess I do.
I think I've read 3 Omegaverse stories in my life, and one of them, I'm going to be posting about this on Insta whenever I get time for it, but I bought these 2 very much matching BL volumes from Japan, and they're both one-shots, and they just look like they're sexy stripper boys, but one of them turns out to be an Omegaverse story, and I was like, wait, what? What? But I was, I have a lot of love for these characters, so I did enjoy the story, but I was so taken aback, because it's the first thing that happened, you flip it open, and there's this diagram explaining the AOB, the what, how, ABO, that's how they say it, right? And it's explaining, and I'm like,
so it's ABO if you put slashes in between it when you're writing it, because otherwise it's a racial slur, and young people on the internet will yell at you over it.
Oh.
I don't have opinions about this.
No, because every time I hear people talk about these things, I'm just transported back in time, and I think of is it News? It's some Johnny's band, and they have a song called Koi no ABO, referring to the blood types, but listening to it in today's climate of Omegaverse is highly disturbing.
Yeah, a lot of people will just now do AOB to completely remove concern about it sounding like a racial slur. I will say the racial slur thing, I'm not here to invalidate that it is a slur. What I am here to invalidate is the people who are yelling it at you. It feels very Tumblr, where none of it is the actual group that is represented or offended by it. It's a lot of younger people who are woke.
Yeah.
So that's Amanda's boomer rant of the day. Is that a lot of the people who will yell at you, it's like, if you don't put the slashes, it's a slur, are not a part of the representative group who'd be offended by that. Which is Amanda's we a boomer moment.
I mean, fair.
I mean, again, that's something that we talked about this during the Tumblr episode, the Sites We Left Behind episode. We talked about Tumblr. That is one thing about like performativity that has always rubbed me the wrong way, is when you have like people that are not a part of that representative group, frankly, speaking over.
Yeah, yelling over.
Because like I found out about it like being a racial slur, not from anyone who's a part of that disenfranchised group, but from other people yelling at me, other Americans yelling at me. It's like, well, wait a minute, hold on. Yeah. I'm not questioning the validity of this being a slur, but why has no one from this community said anything? Why is this not coming from the community and it's coming from a bunch of 20-somethings on Twitter? That's where I have a problem. But yeah, werewolves are great. You can get them in varying levels of furry if you aren't comfortable with just wolves fucking people, which is lovely. You can get them in varying levels of furry, because I'm actually not furry at all and I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, same.
Actually, it makes me high-key uncomfortable.
It's like, I'm trying to think of how much I've read that are actually werewolves and what is actually just like dog boys, and that is also another one of these circles. I'm like,
it is. It's
because a lot of the early 2000s, like, I love A Man's Best Friend, but I have a lot of questions about that manga because like he is in love with his dog.
We don't have time to talk about that.
No, but
we don't have. Yeah, no. We don't have time to talk about we don't have time to talk about that. Do you want to talk? I love that we go plural for everything but ghost. It's just one singular ghost.
It says ghost.
It's just one ghost. I guess it's the one from Eerie Query.
Yeah, that's it. Like, it says ghost, and all
it's the one singular ghost
from Eerie Query.
It's the one ghost twig from Eerie Query. That's it. That's the only ghost.
As if that's the only ghost in
that
BL.
That is the only sexualized ghost. It's the one from Eerie Query.
Yeah. Listen, there is this. I don't know if that counts as a ghost. On DL site, there's a video, like, because occasionally there are video works, animated works, and there's something called jikobuken. And jikobuken means stigmatized property. And typically, refers to you buy an apartment or a house that is stigmatized. Usually means someone died there. Usually means it's cursed. So this short animated thing is a dude who's set to move into an apartment that is stigmatized and ends up being very much assaulted by these basically floating dicks. There are a lot of ghosts, but they have no bodies attached. It's a very interesting animation. I had to buy it because I was so damn curious what it looked like. I was like, I need to see this. And yeah, so there's definitely more than one ghost. I just wanted to put that out there while I
there's lots of ghost stories can be interesting as far as like sexualization goes, because you get like some disembodiment stuff. You get the like, oh, I feel like something is happening, but I don't see it. There's some cool like voyeurs and stuff as well that you can get with ghosts. I can definitely see why you would sexualize a ghost. Now, it's one of those things I think is only hot in fiction.
Yeah.
Because if any of that were to happen to me in real life, I'm jumping off a bridge.
Yeah, goodbye. No.
If I were to ever wake up and like there's like a weird like stain on my stomach, and like my clothes are not where they used to be, and like I'm vaguely sore, I'm running into traffic. I'm done.
And it's like, excuse me.
Yes.
I also literally only, because I am such a J-horror fanatic, ghosts for me equal, all of these horrible, vengeful Yurei and Onryo. And there's nothing less sexy than those ghosts. Like, Nope. Absolutely not.
Like, it's one of those things that, like, and again, you know, about horror, it's only sexy in fiction. Because if any of that were to happen to me in real life, I am running into traffic.
Yeah, goodbye. And then you're
I'm done.
Hopefully not joining the ranks of these ghosts.
If any of that were to happen to me in real life, if I were ever to be like assaulted by a ghost, we're done.
Yeah.
Who do you call?
Ghostbusters? Sorry.
I quit the show. I quit the show.
I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not.
You're not.
I'm having such a good time.
Oh my god. But like, no. Like, do you call Law and Order SVU? Do you call like who at that moment can help you?
Isn't there I don't want to say this because I don't want to do this to you, but what are their names? You know, the twins, the Supernatural brothers.
Oh, Dean and Sam?
Yeah, the Winchesters.
Yeah.
You can call the Winchesters? Maybe?
I think they'd be too into it, honestly. They'd be like, yeah, the sex ghost, you say. Like, I think they'd both be way too into it.
Like, yeah, we'll be right over.
Yeah, we'll be right over. They'll carry on my wayward son blares in the background. I think they'd be into it. I don't think anything would
Oh
solve.
my god. Yeah.
Like, what part of the plan involves Dean laying naked in my bed? Shh, it's part of the plan. Don't worry about it.
This
This is advanced hunting. I don't think it's what?
This is a very it's a technique that's been perfected.
Yeah, it's a story technique that's been passed down by hunters for generations. It's like, you wrote hole on his backside in Sharpie. I don't think
it's part of the ritual. It's an ancient exorcism.
Ancient Sanskrit prayer.
Oh god. Yeah, no. I think, you know, like, it's either like that, or I think a lot of the time for me, ghosts in BL are just sad because they're usually just these,
just,
you know,
tortured souls.
Yeah,
so lonely and like pathetic.
Yeah. And you know, again, that I can never remember the name of it, but that thing that Peachy talked about comes to mind again with, you know, there's someone dead and there's, you know, their ghost hanging around and that whole, you know, thing. It's just sad.
Yeah, there's a lot of like sad incel ghosts hanging around. And it's just like, that's unfortunate.
And the whole, you know, and all of these like these haunting stories, you know, like Sunday, like clips of the Eclipse of the Eternal Heart, you know, with the dead boys and the
yeah, it's really, really sad. It's sad.
It's just dark and sad. And the ending of Sweet Pool and the one good ending that is also a bad ending. And there's a ghosts in BL hurt me. And sometimes they're not even actual ghosts. They're metaphorical ghosts. You know? They're ash living in the back of Eiji's mind and in my heart, and I'm having a moment.
I don't know why Banana Fish did this to you.
I don't know why it didn't.
Am I broken for not caring this much?
Yes, I think so, because it's just so. I just can't. I can't.
Like,
oh god!
Like, it passed through me like water. It's fine.
I don't understand. I mean, I went into it like, I've heard people talk about Banana Fish my entire life. How sad can it be? I said, well,
approximately this sad.
It's like, I'm fine.
Do you want to talk about stalkings, kidnapping, and torture?
Yes. There's a lot of stalking, kidnapping, and torture in BL.
There's frankly too much.
Yeah. You know.
There's frankly too much. Out of all the things that like kind of turn me off, it's that. I'm very selective when it comes to it. You know, when we talked about this stuff being problematic, I think this is one of the places. Because this is a real thing that happens to queer people, is that they are stalked. They do get murdered. And sometimes they are tortured. So like when it happens in queer fiction, it just feels like a little too close to home.
Yeah.
Like it's like this happens to people, and that's not sexy.
No. It's one of those things that, again, I think I advocate a lot for BL, progressing, and we talk about this all the time, right? Like, and Dr. Thomas mentioned it, and like how there was a dialogue between the mangakas of the 90s and the criticism and the people who were critiquing them, and and a lot of them did better, and a lot of things have changed, and we have so many different tropes. So I feel like a lot of the time now, when we do get like these stalkings and kidnapping stories, they are just one part of a much broader genre, whereas before there were a lot more of those types of stories. So I feel like there's a part of me that doesn't want to be as harsh about it. Like, I don't want to be like, oh no, not this again, because there's so much more. But I definitely do react to it when, and I've said this before, when there are adaptations, because there are so many good and consensual and sexy stories out there. But then when they are the ones that get adapted to animation and to live action, a lot of the time are the killings and stalkings and kidnappings and Stockholm syndrome stories. And I'm like, well, why do we keep doing
for
this?
Me, it always comes back to, it's about framing and consequence. I think one of the only good things I have about killing stalking is that there is no part of killing stalking where you ever feel like the character who's doing bad things is not doing bad things. No. Which is why the people who later were like, oh my God, this is so sexy, like those people are wrong. And you should make fun of them. Those people are wrong. Because there's no part of the story that does that, like, oh, he's kidnapping me, but it's hot. Or, oh, I'm being tortured, but I'm into it. Like, there's none of that. That does not exist in that work. So when you get those people who are like, oh my God, it was so hot to be like kidnapped and stalked, and like, no, you are incorrect. Also, see all of my anger right now at the basic women who are sexualizing Jeffrey Dahmer.
I cannot believe, like, this is like a cycle that just keeps coming back.
It really is.
The Jeffrey Dahmer thing. Like, can we
just stop?
Also, excuse me, I saw the most ridiculous headline the other day because
they took him off of LGBT.
Yeah, not that. That was also ridiculous. But the thing is, my country is small, okay? Yes. And we're not used to getting attention. So the Norwegian media loves latching on to anything that can be associated to us. So they'll be like, oh, this model who has roots in Norway, this actress who has roots in Norway. And this one, the other day, like last week, I opened up some online magazine thing, I can't remember, and the headline that met my eyes was the Norwegian heritage serial killer, because apparently Jeffrey Dahmer has roots in Norway, and we're supposed to be what? Proud of this now? Like, this headline was so ridiculous. I'm like, what?
You don't want to claim Jeffrey Dahmer as
no!
You don't want to have him like in the Hall of Norway?
No! I mean, no thank you. Like,
you don't want to have him in the Hall of Great Norwegians? You just have like the Jeffrey Dahmer enclave?
I did not know that we are somehow partially responsible for this guy, but I mean, can we just not claim him? Like,
you have to take it up with Norway. You're gonna have to talk.
I'm gonna have to write someone. I'm gonna be like,
who's the boss of Norway? Is it the prime minister? Is it the president?
We don't have a president.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Like, either the prime minister or the king.
Yeah, you're gonna have to write a letter to the king of Norway and be like, hello, can we no longer claim Jeffrey Dahmer?
I suggest that we bring back punishment to certain people. Can you punish whoever wrote this article? Because
yes, I'd like more information. I'd like more information on this person who was proud to claim Jeffrey Dahmer as having Norwegian heritage.
This isn't some, this isn't Chrissy Teigen, whatever she's known for, this is, but okay.
I do feel like Texas gets that sometimes, where it's like Texas related serial killer, this guy, and it's like, hey. There's a lot of great Texans. There's a lot of not great Texans. You can find some other Texans. You can find some other Texans. You don't have to. You don't have to do this. You don't have to calm down. We don't have to do this. But I do like the occasional, the very occasional, like, oh, there's murder in this, but I don't like murder being the main plot point.
No,
I fundamentally don't think that that's very sexy.
Yeah, it is like, and I'm sorry, but I keep harping on this, but Vegas Pete, ladies and gentlemen, the most recent entry into my library of stalking, kidnapping, torture BL, is Vegas and Pete from Kin Porsche, and I'm like, you know what? I absolutely understand that people love them. I love Pete. I hate Vegas. He's an interesting character, but he's not a great person. I don't like him. But it's like, I've seen a lot, and I know that there's a lot of BL, that has that whole, okay, you kidnapped me and tortured me, but somewhere along the line, I started getting into it, and I'm also kind of kinky, so this is fine. And I'm like, okay, sure, I'll buy into Vegas Pete in that sense. But the thing is, when the first thing a guy does is electrocute your testicles, why would you ever want to have sex with him? Like, no guy in the world would want to let that person touch their genitalia ever again. And Pete was like, yes, sign me up for this. And I'm like, Pete, I have trash taste in men too, but Jesus Christ. No offense to my Vegas Pete friends out there. I know you exist. I respect and love you, but also I just can't. I just can't.
I've been watching the American medical drama House for the past 2 weeks. I don't get to say anything to anyone. Hugh Laurie is a very attractive older man.
I love Hugh Laurie, but
Love
I've never seen House. Because medical dramas and me, we don't really mix all that well with the whole phobia thing. But I just think it's so hilarious that he is this super grouchy, serious character, because to me, he's always going to be the Prince Regent from Blackadder. And I'm just
Blackadder.
Like, how? What?
Yeah, because I watched a lot of Britcom when I was a kid. Shocking, I know. So I did watch Blackadder. I wasn't quite old enough to put it together yet. But then as I got older, like, it's the same fucking guy!
Oh no, I love the Prince Regent. I think part of me is like, maybe my love for himbos came from the Prince Regent.
I'm okay with ascribing that to Hugh Laurie.
Like this could be this is my origin story.
This is your villain origin for himbos. Do you want to talk about incubi and male succubi? Because Carola, quiz, what is the difference between a succubus and an incubus?
I routinely Google this because I'm so afraid of getting it wrong. But the incubus, I mean, from what I've gathered, the incubus is the male version and the succubus is the female version. And then I know that there are, in fiction, male succubi, but yes. I feel like I never encounter them. I only know the incubi.
So technically, the only difference between incubus and succubus is that incubus means to lay on top and succubus means to lay beneath. So you can absolutely have a male succubus. Both derive energy from sex with others. The idea that incubi are just male succubi is a Western bastardization, as everything is. It's a Western bastardization, as everything is.
Maybe we need to do an episode of Western bastardizations.
We'll end out the year with Western bastardization. But I think that there's something interesting to be said in that you are starting to see a lot less like incubi being used and a lot more like, oh, this is a male succubus. Sometimes with some Omegaverse, which I think is fascinating. We really need to do an Omegaverse episode. I'm going to drag you kicking and screaming into one.
Okay. People recommend me some Omegaverse stuff, I guess, so I can get in on
I'm gonna
this.
drag you kicking and screaming into an Omegaverse episode.
Okay. Okay. Because I love you. I will I will allow it.
What a true show of friendship. I'm willing to read Omegaverse for you.
Yeah, I'll read Omegaverse for you.
But I like these kinds of stories. I think that they're very, very interesting. The only thing that does occasionally squick me out is that there are sometimes some very, very like too questionable stuff with the consent. Because it's always a little dubcon with incubi and succubi. Yeah. Sometimes it's a little too dubcon. And because I do love me some dubcon. Love me some dubious consent. I eat dubious.
You? Really?
I eat dubious consent for breakfast. But sometimes they get a little too dubcon. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know if this is dubcon or just non-con. This feels different.
You do know that there's an incubus in New Carnival, right? I'm just throwing it out there.
Is he attractive?
Yes.
Is he my kind of attractive?
I'm not sure. You have a lot of Morve.
Oh, he's okay.
Yeah.
He's okay. Where are his clothes?
I like it. What do you mean clothes? No one has clothes in New Carnival. That's kind of the point.
Oh, he has 3 clothing options. Okay. There's a tattered one. Okay.
He has multiple outfits, and then they come in various degrees of
destroyed.
Dressed down, destroyed. Yeah.
Sure.
I'm not giving up. I'm trying to convert you.
What is the point of this game?
Suffering, mostly, because you're trying to get the new boys and you never get them. But you go around and there's a story and it's like an isekai thing. But I mean, we all just play it so that we can unlock more boys and have hot scenes with them. So.
Okay. So the point is to sex the boys?
Yes.
And you sex the boys?
Yes, you sex the boys.
You do sex the boys?
Yes. And there are multiple versions. So, you get, like, in the main storyline, they each have, as long as you unlock the SSR character, they each have, like, a sex scene in the main story, but then you also have intimacy rooms that unlocks separate storylines with sex scenes in the intimacy rooms, and each version of the character has a different sex scene. So there's like a lot of, you sex the boys a lot. It's fun. Some of the animation is a little weird.
What do I get in return for playing this game?
Endorphins, joy, addiction.
Hold on. If it'll make Carola happy.
Are you gonna do it?
Oh no, that's not the same one. Oh, can I not get it on Android?
I don't know. I play it on my computer. I use an emulator because I have iPhone, so it's like really tricky. But
fine, I'll get an emulator. See, you're already making me do too much effort.
But I'm going to read Omegaverse for you, so...
That's not the same. Omegaverse can be fun.
Yeah, but this is fun.
Is it fun?
Yes.
Okay. I will figure out how to play New Carnival if it'll make Carola happy. Demons. Oh yes. Boy, do people like fucking demons.
Increasingly. I feel like there's
demons.
I feel like there's so much more of it recently.
I feel like there's been more Western demons.
Yeah.
Which again, we probably should have a whole episode on Western bastardization.
I'm ready.
You could probably slot some demon stuff into incubi succubi stuff, but you shouldn't because they're different. I like some demon stuff. I do feel like some people play fast and loose with what a demon is and what just like a monster is. But I won't kick it out of bed. I won't kick it out of bed. I think it can be hot.
Yes. I mean,
Uh,
I don't
the final one.
murder in
Uh,
all caps, mind you. It's
you
like
know,
for
in
anyone
these, yes,
not seeing our
our
beautiful
outline.
outline, it's like
You know, in
the
these
two.
words comes to mind where it's not a
Yes.
serial killer and there's a lot of murder around the main characters. I do love in these words. Famously, the manga that made me go downstairs and pray with my Catholic family because I was like, I need Jesus after reading this.
Double mints comes to mind.
I feel so bad for anyone who came into Nakamura Asumiko reading Classmates and then tries to find like anything else by her.
Cue Amanda's routine screaming about Jane Osubete.
Honestly, no, I'll stay in Double Mints because that one fucked me
Yeah.
up too. Where it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
I mean, it's so, yeah.
like, oh, yeah, I feel so bad for anyone who, like, talk about like a catfish of catfish. Like, anyone who came in to Asumiko Nakamura and is like, oh my god, I love Classmates. And then it's like, everything else is just horrible.
Hello, there's a corpse in my car, and I need you to.
I mean, Double Mints is really, really good. Like, I like it.
I mean, it really is.
It's a little terrifying, but it's good.
You can have both, you know.
You can have
okay.
both. I think her art style lends to horror a lot.
Yeah. And you know, a lot of the time, both of these really, the demons and the murder trope, they also can go hand in hand with the stalking, kidnapping, torture trope, because sometimes they do go down that route. One of my favorites that is also like I don't know if it actually does count as BL. I've always read it as a BL, but Leitche Hikari Club is like, I mean, it is problematic on a lot of levels because, you know, these are middle schoolers, but there are two gay characters in it, and then there is a third character who is in a gay relationship with one of these two. And I mean, he's only really in it because he's attracted to the young beautiful boys, you know, before they start becoming men. So he's just really attracted to them for the whole aesthetic, not really because he's attracted to men. And it's an all boys school, so you know. But that one takes some really wild turns, you know, dipping a little bit into fascism and bloodbaths and kidnappings, and it's incredibly graphic and horrific, and I love it so much for a lot of reasons. But yeah, it does end in a lot of murder. Yes, spoilers. There's also a film and a couple of really good stage adaptations. Like, I really do love the stage adaptations, but it's not for the faint of heart, I think.
Most of the things on this list aren't for the faint of heart.
No.
Also, shout out to the one Korean BL that I remember reading about and starting, which was basically someone tried to make a boyfriend out of the Mononongle, which is a Korean self-segmenting monster that has a long tongue that like it eats viscera. It's a viscera eater. So like it eats like bile and stuff from the inside of your stomach and it can kill people. It also eats fetuses occasionally. So they turned the Mononongle from a female figure to a male figure, and apparently now he's gay and they sleep together. So shout out to that story about fucking the Mononongle.
I guess.
And self-segmenting is in like, normally they have like a whole body, but at night they separate and they lose their legs and they're just like trailing their intestines, and they have wings and they have the long tongue.
That doesn't sound sexy, but I mean, BL always finds some way to make these creatures attractive.
There are people that sexualize Cthulhu.
Yes.
So sure, I guess fuck the Mononongle.
I mean, Cthulhu. I mean, I guess there are tentacles involved, you know?
I say this respectfully. I still don't understand tentacles. I still don't. I mean, I understand them historically and culturally, and I understand them on fish, but I don't understand them sexually.
I don't really.
I don't say that to judge anyone. I'm not here to harsh anyone's yums. If that's your thing, I fully respect you. I don't get it. I don't get it.
I don't get it, but also Tamaki.
What did he do?
What do you mean, what did he do?
Why do you love him? What happened?
Because he's an anxiety wreck.
Does he owe you money? Like, how do you love him?
He makes me happy.
Okay, I respect that.
Yes. He's a cinnamon roll. That's why. You know, I love cinnamon rolls. Yes, he is.
Got offended when I questioned it. Got actually angry. Like I insulted her actual child. It's like, yes, my son is.
I could not have been more offended if you insulted offended. My actual child. Like, I don't care. I don't like children. I don't care. Say whatever you want about my hypothetical children, but Tamaki?
Like, you were actually upset for a second. It's like, yes, my son is innocent.
Yeah. He's perfect. What do you want?
Oh my god.
I mean, he wouldn't murder anyone, but you know, I'll take it.
Carola, where can the good people find us?
You can find us at the Yaoi Shelf on Twitter and Instagram. You can become a patron over on Patreon/the Yaoi Shelf. We appreciate you.
You will get patrons of a certain rank get their Patreon episode next week because I will be out of the country. What are we covering? We'll figure that out when we get there.
Some level of dark, spooky BL in depth.
Yeah.
Somehow.
We'll figure it out. And then the week after, on the 23rd, you will have a costumed live stream for all, where we go over the episode in full. We have some fun. So bring your questions. Get ready to hang out.
Lists of your favorite ghosts and vampires and murderers, I guess.
Please don't bring a list of your favorite, not real murderers, please.
No,
not
BL murderers.
Yeah, not actual. I really don't want to have like the true crime conversation of like, please stop sexualizing actual murderers.
I don't want to hear a word about Jeffrey Dahmer.
I don't want to talk about Jeffrey Dahmer. I don't want
or Ted Bundy, for the love of God.
No, I don't want to talk about Ted Bundy. I don't want to talk about how hot certain murderers are. That's not what we're here to do.
You don't want to talk about that one film.
Don't put this on me like you don't also love. No, fuck you. Don't put this on me like you don't all. No.
I was fine. And then you pointed it out. No, okay.
Yeah, you also had that, and then we agreed.
We both watched that movie separately and then agreed that what the hell happened here.
Yeah, so fuck you.
Okay.
That is not me. I rebuke that evil. That is us. We are going down on that boat together.
Okay, fine. Let's just... But it's okay, because we're already jumping into traffic, apparently. So it's like...
we have something very, very cool happening next month.
Yes.
I know I say that all the time, but because it's really, really happening. We have another special guest. Carola, do you want to talk about our special guest?
Yes, we are very excited. And I think that we need it after this month's topic. It's time for us to repent our sins and head over to the Church of BL, as we will be joined by the amazing Peachy.
I am so excited to have Peachy on the show. And we're actually going to talk about problematic stuff. My former co-host and I talked about problematic material, and I will say, while it's a good episode, it's not a great episode. And I think with the power of Peachy, we can truly have a great episode. You know, we got our good book learning with Ari and Dr. Thomas. I think now we can really have an actual conversation about problematic material when it comes to BL and Yaoi. So I'm excited to have Peachy on the show. Yes. I'm excited to absorb peachy's goodness. I'm excited for it. That'll be in November.
I think it's going to be super fun.
It's going to be super fun. So if I look and sound stressed out, it's because I am.
You'll be fine.
Doing great.
I hope so.
I hope so.
I hope you'll be fine.
I hope so too. Y'all take care of yourselves. We will see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.